Hi guys. So today's video is going to be a little different. I usually film bookish videos, but I had a request or two to do like a Q&A type video. I haven't really been on YouTube for that long, so I didn't know if this was like too early to do one, but I guess I'll give you a little like intro to like who I am and like my reading preferences and all that stuff. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do today. I have a book with me that I'll probably just be tapping on randomly for like ASMR purposes. But yeah, I have all the questions and answers to like the side, so I'll be looking over there occasionally just to like remember what the questions are and stuff. I've only kept a few because otherwise it would just take too long. So yeah, let's just get started. So at first I thought I'd give you like a little intro into like my background with ASMR. I've been watching ASMR since like 2012, 2011. It's been a while. I was in like middle school. So I personally enjoy like tapping and scratching videos. Like I'm not a huge usually fan of like role plays and that kind of thing. It's just not for me. I like either no talking, tapping and scratching. Although I did used to like hair videos. I don't know why. Like hair brushing videos. I just find that sound really relaxing. And ever since like a couple years ago, I've started seeing people do bookish ASMR, and I've always been a big reader. I've always, like since I was young, been reading, collecting books and reading them. I actually went to get my master's in library science to be a librarian because I loved reading so much. But yeah, so reading has always been like a really big part of my life. So we'll get into that more later, but the first question we have here is, what TV shows have you been watching recently? To be honest, I don't really watch a lot of TV. We don't have cable at the house I live in with my roommates, so we really just do like streaming and YouTube. Obviously that still means you can watch TV shows, but I'm not watching like something that's airing currently on cable. And honestly, I haven't really watched any new TV shows in a while. It's been a hot sec. I usually just watch streamers. So my roommates are really into gaming, and they have streamers that they watch, and I don't mind watching that too. So usually they'll just have something on in the background and I'll watch it as well. So I actually watch that more than I do like TV shows and that kind of thing. I'll also watch like booktubers. I've also been watching booktube for a long time. Also since like 2011, 2012. I was there like when like book blogging kind of transitioned to booktubing on YouTube, and then Bookstagram, and now Book Talk. Like I feel like an ancient dinosaur that has witnessed several generations pass. Silently watching, never participating. So yeah, so that's usually what I'll watch like during the day, sometimes like if I'm having a slow day at work. But I guess to talk about some TV shows that I have previously loved and will rewatch occasionally, to name a few, Good Omens. I do watch Good Omens. My sister introduced me to that and I love it a lot. The only Neil Gaiman book I've read is The Graveyard Book. I did try to read one of his graphic novels once, and it wasn't really for me. I remember back in the day I watched the movie Stardust, which I think is based on one of his stories. And if you've seen that movie, there's like a drowning scene, and it scarred my young soul for life. So I haven't rewatched it since. I'm sure it's actually not that bad, but I have a very low tolerance for like drowning and that kind of thing. So but I love Good Omens. I'm very excited for season 3 whenever it comes out. Michael Sheen and David Tennant are geniuses, and I really loved season 2. I think as enjoyable as season 1 was, I think season 2 is my favorite so far. So, and then let's see, what else? Oh, Heartstopper. I watched Heartstopper when it came out. I know it's definitely not everyone's cup of tea, but I love like a wholesome story like that, so it was very much geared towards me. So I've watched both seasons of that, and I know they've like finished filming season 3, so I'll probably watch that when that comes out as well. I think it just feels like a niche for queer stories that like hasn't really been filled completely. I just it's very wholesome and I enjoy it. I have not read the graphic novels or anything by Alice Osman. Graphic novels really aren't like my thing. I know a lot of people love them, and I think it's definitely a valid form of reading, but it's just not one that I prefer. I already said Heartstopper. Game of Thrones. I did watch Game of Thrones while it was airing. I only started watching towards the end of the series. I went back and rewatched from the beginning, but I wasn't watching the beginning live, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And yes, I was there for the wild ride that was the final season. My opinion of the final season is probably what most people's opinion of it was, but yeah, not my favorite. I have not read the books, the A Song of Ice and Fire books. Excuse me. And I probably won't unless George R.R. Martin finishes the final book. I think if he does publish the final book, I will read it, the series. But until then, I'm holding out. Also, I wanted to say, if you keep seeing jump cuts, it's because my cat, my sister's cat, has been wailing a little bit. So, like I brought him upstairs and made sure he has food and water. So, that's why you'll see a couple jump cuts throughout this video. So please forgive me for that, because it's sort of inevitable. There's not much I can do about that. But anyways, to continue on with the TV shows. So I mentioned Good Omens, Heartstopper, Game of Thrones. There's also a Thai drama called I Told Sunset About You, which is one of my favorite dramas of all time. It made me cry multiple times. It's one of those ones that I can't like rewatch casually. I rewatch it and I sob every time. So it's really, really good. The writing, the acting, like all of it is just so incredible. The cinematography, like there's certain scenes that just really stick in your brain from it. It's so good. So I would highly recommend checking that out if you're into Thai dramas at all. And then another show is Shadow and Bone. So I read the Grisha books when they came out. My sister had read Shadow and Bone and convinced me to read it. And then I actually went to the launch party for Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, so I got to meet her the day it released. The night before it released, actually. So I have an advanced copy of that book and also a signed first edition from her. So very lucky because it was near my area at the time. So I got to attend. And I love that series. Six of Crows is still one of my favorite series. It's definitely up there in the like top 10, top 15. Just had a really big impact on me back in like 2015. So obviously I watched the show, and I think the casting was really, really good. I'm very sad that they canceled it. The Freddie Carter, who plays Kaz Brucker, excellent. He is Kaz. Like, he is Kaz. You cannot convince me otherwise. So when I went to the launch party for Six of Crows, one of the things I got was this tattoo. I actually got one on my arm. They did it for you. Like, they put the Crow Club tattoo, or the Six of Crows tattoo on your arm. And so I had that on there for a while, and I actually seriously considered getting it on as like a real tattoo. And I still might one day, but yeah, it was just like, I remember everything about that night. It was such a good night. And then here's the arc, Six of Crows. So it released September of 2015. So this is the book that I first read the story in. And then lastly, here is my beloved, my cherished, my copy of Six of Crows that I got from, signed from Lee Bardugo that night. It has the black sprayed pages, and then it also has my name personalized in there, so I don't want to show that, but yeah, it was a really special night. So obviously I watched the show when it finally came out, and I love the actress who plays Inej. She was perfect. It was such a good adaptation. Obviously not perfect, there were flaws, but overall I think it was so good, and I'm very sad that we're not going to get season 3 or a Six of Crows spinoff. Okay, and then to rapid fire some other shows that I just generally enjoy are Buffy the Vampire Slayer, big Buffy fan. Merlin, I love the show Merlin, so good, on the BBC version with, I can't remember his name right now, but yeah, that one, really good. Doctor Who, obviously. My favorite Doctor is David Tennant. I'm a big 10 fan, so that's where I land on that. But I enjoyed the Matt Smith era and the others as well. I haven't really caught up recently, so I haven't watched a lot of 12 and 13, and I haven't seen, obviously, I know there's a new Doctor coming out. I have not seen anything of that, obviously, so, but yeah, big 10 fan. And then Sherlock, I watched the BBC Sherlock. That was fun. Not my favorite, but I mean, I really enjoyed watching it. And then if we were to go further back into high school / middle school me, I loved Vampire Diaries. I was a Vampire Diaries watcher. I've always been like a paranormal, supernatural, and especially back then, that was like the thing, the Twilight era. So I watched Vampire Diaries, and then growing up I watched Gilmore Girls with my my mom and my sister. That was like our thing, is we would watch Gilmore Girls. I watched that even while it was airing. I remember it would come on at like 4 o'clock after school, and we'd all sit down and watch it together. So I have very like cherished memories of Gilmore Girls in my heart. And then lastly, I was a Teen Titans fan, like even further back from Cartoon Network. Loved Teen Titans. I remember my cousins had like the Game Boy game, and I've played that to death. I love that so much. So those are some TV shows that I do enjoy. And then favorite movies, let's see, Howl's Moving Castle is my comfort movie. And also Pride and Prejudice, the 2005 version with Keira Knightley. That's also very comforting. I know that's very basic, but like it's such a good movie. The atmosphere, ugh, it's just, ugh. Like nothing can comfort me as much as that movie, aside from Howl's Moving Castle. And then Dead Poets Society. My sister showed me that movie, and it ruined my life because it made me so sad. But I kind of gravitate towards sort of melancholy, sad books and movies, so it's definitely a favorite. I can't rewatch it that often though, because again, it will make me very sad. And then this might be kind of controversial, but I loved The Force Awakens when it came out, the first movie in the sequel trilogy for Star Wars. I wasn't excited for it at the time, but then when I watched it, I loved it. It had such a fairy tale feel to it, and I know it probably copied like a lot of scenes and stuff from the original trilogy, but I loved the characters. I thought it was a good intro. And it definitely had me like excited for the rest of the movies. So yeah, I loved The Force Awakens. I still love to rewatch it. For the other movies in that sequel trilogy, there are aspects about The Last Jedi that I really liked and aspects that I really didn't. So I'm a little torn on that one. Like, I understand why some people don't like it. And there were parts of it that I wish were different. But there are parts of it I like too. And then The Rise of Skywalker, in my humble opinion, was a dumpster fire trash that should never have happened. Like, I remember seeing that movie. I was so excited for it because I was like, maybe we can like pull like the third one, we'll pull it all back and we'll make it good. And then I remember going into the theater and coming out and being like, huh? Like, what? It was just, ugh, everything about it, the writing. I won't go into it. This is not a rant video. I'm trying not to rant. But yeah, not for me, not in the least. So that was the favorite movies portion of this Q&A. Favorite YouTubers is another question I got. Reagan from Peruse Project is a booktuber that's been on YouTube since 2012, I think. It's been a while. 2013, maybe later. I can't remember. But I love her. Like, I like her personally from what I can see from her videos, and I also love her book recs. The way she like describes books is really helpful, and like seeing that what if I'd like it or not. She and I have very similar tastes when it comes to fantasy books. And I feel like her divide of like adult and young adult is very similar to mine. Yeah, we just have a lot in common in terms of book tastes, so I love to watch her videos. And then another YouTuber I watch, most of them are bookish, but Marilee Kristen, she just does really good like news updates involving like book publications and like adaptations and pre-orders and all that kind of stuff. Like, I watch her videos for that, so I think she's really great for that kind of thing. We don't always have the same bookish taste, but we do align on some things, so yeah, she's fun to watch. Another question I got was, do you play any video games? Okay, so I mentioned previously my roommates love to play games. They're gamers, real certified gamers. And I am not. I grew up playing like the Pokemon. I played Pokemon Ruby. I had a Game Boy Advance. I had a DS. I played Nintendogs. Like, I was in there. I loved the Animal Crossing. The first one, I think, is Wild World. If that's wrong, I'm so sorry to all the Animal Crossing fans out there, because I haven't really kept playing it. But so yeah, I had a Game Boy Advance. I had a DS. I now have a Switch, so I can play with my friends, because that's what they like to do. So yeah, I played Nintendogs, I played Animal Crossing, some Pokemon, not too much, but some. But nowadays, I'm much more of a reader. I kind of went down the reading path and left less time for gaming, and so, yeah. But I do play Fortnite. I do play Fortnite with my friends, because I like the team aspect of gaming. That's much more like, I like the bonding, like the friendship bonding part is what I'm here for. It's not really for the games themselves. So I will play Fortnite with my friends. I started doing that this year. That's probably the game I play the most often. So yeah, I've been playing the new season, you know. Am I that great? No, I probably get taken down by a bot or two. We'll never know, you know. But yeah, so I play Fortnite sometimes. I just finished playing Unpacking, that game where you like unpack and it's like a story of someone who's moving house for different reasons. I did that because I was kind of chill. Oh, I forgot. I did used to play Twilight Princess, the Zelda game. I saw a wolf on it and I was like, ooh, that looks fun. But I played like a little bit, and then my sister started playing it and she like actually completed it and like kept playing Zelda games, so I don't know how much claim I have on that. I did download Breath of the Wild. I played for a little bit, and then I got kind of overwhelmed and stopped. I've played Among Us a couple times, you know, back during the pandemic Among Us boom. But again, like, yeah, so I'm not really a gamer, but I will occasionally dabble in a few games to hang out with my friends, I guess. So, yeah. Another question is, do you have any tattoos? Or do you want any? So if I got any tattoos, they would be bookish tattoos. I have thought about it. I've thought about it since like 2015, 2016. I read a lot of books that I loved, and I started thinking about it. So I do know a couple of what I'd get if I did get a tattoo, but I have not gotten any yet. A couple of reasons. One, I'm not the biggest fan of needles. Two, like, the idea of permanently marking my body does give me pause. Like, I just want to make sure, you know. So I decided back in like 2015, 2016, I was like, I'll wait some years, and if I still want this, then maybe I'll get it and invest in like an actual tattoo for it. And there are some that have stayed with me, so I might get a tattoo sometime, once I don't chicken out and stuff like that. I will say I would definitely be most likely to get a tattoo over a piercing. Like, I don't have my ears pierced or anything. Like, if I were to get either a piercing or a tattoo, it would be a tattoo. It's just much more my kind of thing. Another question is, do your friends know about your YouTube channel? No, I just started, and I don't know if any of them watch ASMR. I don't think they judge me for it, but no, I haven't really told anyone. So, what made you start a YouTube channel? So yeah, like I said previously, I watched ASMR for years, and I never really felt like I could make it myself, and I don't even know if this is relaxing, so. But when I saw Bookish ASMR, that was like the first time when I was like, oh, I have lots of books. I love talking about reading. I could do that. So that's kind of what kind of kickstarted my desire to start my own channel. Another question was, what first got you into ASMR? So I've always kind of struggled with sleeping, like going to sleep. I know people who can just like fall asleep in like 10 minutes, and for me it takes like a whole process that takes hours. Like, I have to like lie in bed and then like read a little bit or do something to distract my mind, because my brain will just like I will not fall asleep quickly ever. Unless I've had like an exhausting day, like a rare occasion. So when I found ASMR, I realized that really helped and made me fall asleep. So that's what first got me into ASMR. Also, if I'm like stressed out, sometimes having it on is just kind of nice. It's nice to hear someone just like talking calmly to you. Kind of just feels like everything will be okay if you're like really stressed out. So that's another reason. Also, I occasionally get headaches. I didn't used to get headaches, but I started to after I had like I had a brain surgery when I was 17, and after that I started getting some unpleasant headaches. So they really help with that. For that kind of thing, I really love like mic scratching and like mic tapping, because that like will help the headache go away. So that's that question. And the next is, which countries would you like to visit? So I'd like to visit anywhere, honestly. I've traveled to Germany, Austria, France, Canada, across the US. But I'd love to visit like Vietnam, or like Ireland or Korea, really anywhere, like Europe or Africa, like not countries obviously, but like any countries in those areas I'd love to visit. I haven't traveled like a ton. I do like the cold. I'd love to go to like Alaska. I do know I have a mutual friend on Instagram who lives there, and she'll sometimes share videos of like the Northern Lights, and I just think it's so pretty. I would love to visit Alaska. So yeah, I'd be up for traveling pretty much anywhere, honestly. And another question is, do you have any pets? So my sister has a cat, an orange cat. But I grew up with dogs. I was always a dog person growing up. We always had border collies specifically. I don't know if I'm personally a border collie person. They're a lot. They're very neurotic and smart, and I loved them deeply, but I don't think I have the brain to take care of them the way that my parents did. So, but I loved them. So yeah, I've always been kind of a dog person, but I really have, like, living with my sister's cat has given me another perspective, and I respect the cat. And then the next book is, what are your top five favorite books ever? Which, if you're a reader, you know this is like the hardest question ever. Like, do I go with series? Do I go with standalones? Like, it also kind of depends on like which era we're talking about. Like my favorite of all time, my favorite now. So I just kind of listed a few. If I were to go with top favorite series, my favorite series of all time is All for the Game by Nora Sakovic. I read it in January of 2020. It's might come off as kind of wild to people who don't know what it's about, but it's a mafia sports romance. And the characterization and the dynamics between the characters are so good. I'm a character-driven reader, personally. And in that book, I don't know what Nora put in there, but I love it. It's my favorite series of all time. It changed my life back in January of 2020, and I have not been the same since. I have a whole separate Twitter account to just talk about All for the Game. And yes, I have read the new book she released called The Sunshine Court, and yes, I have read that. It was amazing. All 5 stars for all of those books. So yeah, that's my favorite series of all time. And then coming in second is The Raven Cycle. This shelf right here is The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. That is my second favorite series of all time. So yeah, obviously I collect for my favorite series, so I have lots of different editions of them. They have their own shelf. They even have their own little shelf over here. And then my third favorite series is right below it. This is the Winter Night trilogy by Catherine Arden. Again, The Raven Cycle is very close to All for the Game in that it also changed my life back in like, I read it as a high schooler, and then I reread it again in like 2019. And just every time I reread it, it like grips me all over again, and I like am in a funk for a couple months because it's all I can think about. Yes, love it very much. And then the Winter Night trilogy by Catherine Arden is a Russian folklore story. It's a trilogy, and it's so good. The writing, the atmosphere, like the way it depicts like the old world versus the new, and you can just tell it's very well researched. It's so good. If I had to recommend one of these series, and you kind of skew more towards like adult books, I would recommend the Winter Night trilogy. Like, you can't go wrong with it. It's so good. But if you love friendship and mafia stories, All for the Game and The Raven Cycle. It's kind of hard because the desire to gatekeep All for the Game and The Raven Cycle is very strong within me, so I don't even want to recommend them, but for you listening, I will. My very favorite books. And then some other favorites in no particular order is The Infernal Devices by Cassandra Clare. I did read those in high school, and that has one of the best quote-unquote love triangles I've ever seen written. And just all the characters, like, it's such a good trilogy. I think, obviously, Cassandra Clare wrote the Shadowhunter Chronicles, which is this, like, multiple series within the same world chronicles. There's so many different series within them, but The Infernal Devices will always be my favorite. It's so good. It's set during Victorian England, and it's just so good. Basically, obviously, if you haven't heard of it, It's about Nephilim who fight demons. There was a TV show of it. I highly do not recommend it. I've only seen a couple episodes, but it was on ABC Family, and it was just not, it was not it. They also did a movie called City of Bones, which was this is the first book that she ever wrote in the series. And while the movie was not perfect, like, it definitely had its moments of like, ugh. To me, it was much better than the show. The casting, the acting, the directing, the cinematography, the vibes even. Like, the show just had such like a free-form vibe. Like, if you know what I'm talking about. And it was just not it. And then some other favorite series are the Green Creek series by T.J. Klune. It's about werewolves in Oregon. A bunch of gay werewolves in Oregon. That's basically what it's about. And then a long-term favorite that will always be in my favorites is The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. I know a lot of people love the movies, but I think the movies were good, but they will never compare to the books. Like, I highly recommend reading the books if you haven't. There's something about the way Suzanne Collins writes, like, it just gets in your head, and like, you can see the story so vividly from her words alone, and like, the movies just will never capture like the intimacy you have with Katniss's mind when you read from the book. Like, it's just not, it can't translate the same on film. So as good as the films may be, I still highly recommend the books. The books will always be my favorite. And then I also listed some standalones, because those are mostly series. So I listed some of my favorite like standalone books. Let me go grab some actually real quick. Okay, so I grabbed a few. So one of my favorite, this isn't a standalone actually, this is a duology, I'm lying, I'm sorry. But I need to show this to you too, is The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. This is another book published in 2015 that I fell in love with absolutely. It's based on the, what am I trying to say? 1,000 Nights. What can I remember? 1,001 Nights. I'm sorry. Left my brain. And it's so good. It's so good. I cannot. This was like, there's a lot of books, like I've said this, but a lot of books came out in 2015, 2016 that ended up being like my favorite books of all time. And this is one of them. It's a duology. So the first one is called The Wrath and the Dawn. And the second one is called The Rose and the Dagger. So good. So good. Like, I cannot recommend them enough. Oh, and these are the Fairy Loot editions, I think. Okay. And then another favorite standalone. So you'll know that this is the author of Holly Black, is the author of the Folk of the Air series, which is like the Cruel Prince, the Wicked King, and the Queen of Nothing. And I read that series. It's great. I loved it. I think it deserves like the hype it gets. It's not my favorite by any means, but it's so good. It's really good. Like, I would recommend it. But my favorite Holly Black book is The Coldest Girl in Cold Town. And again, this is another one that like my instinct is to gatekeep it because I don't want other people to find it. But again, if you're watching, you're a real one. You understand. And this is just my favorite Holly Black book of all time. It's about vampires. It's very like a gothic urban fantasy. And it's so good. There's a place called Cold Town where the vampires are, and our main character, Tara? It's been a while. This is another book that came out. This is another 2015 favorite. Tana goes there, and everything takes off from there. It's so good. And this is the Fairy Loot edition, I think. I think when I met Holly Black at a signing, she was like, she mentioned that she might be making another book in the series. And I am both excited and terrified because this was perfect to me, and I don't want anything to touch this. So like, what if I end up not liking the sequel? But the rational side of my brain is like, it's exciting. You'll probably love it. So, very good. Highly recommend. And then another favorite standalone is shiny. This is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. Sorry, trying to avoid the glare. This is the Goldsboro edition. Fun fact, there were only like 300 of these made. So I am very lucky that I got this. But I loved this book so much. I read The Starless Sea, I can't remember if it was last August or the August before that. I want to say it was in 2022, August of 2022. And so backstory, she also is the same author of The Night Circus. And I tried to read that book like a decade ago. And I just couldn't get through it. Like, I would make it halfway through, but then, like, the characters felt underdeveloped. The plot wasn't going anywhere. It was just a bunch of, like, description. I think I described it in my review as, like, a beautiful cake with nothing inside. Which seems rather harsh, but, like, I just couldn't get into it. I tried to restart it, like, a couple times, and I would always make it halfway through, and then I'd be like, I can't do this anymore. But the premise of The Starless Sea interested me. And I saw some reviews that were like, even if you didn't like The Night Circus, you might like The Starless Sea. And so I read it, and it's so good. It had, like, the beautiful writing and, like, magical atmosphere of The Night Circus, but also with, like, fully fleshed out characters, which I appreciated. So yeah, this is one of my favorite standalones of all time. I love The Starless Sea. Like, there's no other book that will give you the vibe that this book gives you. Like, it's just unique. It's like a one-time experience. I don't know how else to describe it, but I highly recommend it. It's so good. And then the last book I wanted to mention as a favorite standalone is a book I read last year, or the year before. It was last year. I'm pretty sure it was last year. It was like the beginning of last year. That is Uprooted by Naomi Novik. I love this book so much. She's the same author who wrote Spinning Silver. She writes sort of folklore-esque fantasies, which is my favorite. Historical fantasy and folklore. Like, give me either of those in fantasy and I'm happy. So yeah, I read Uprooted first. And this is a story about a town that has to give up a girl to the dragon as payment. I think it's every year or every so often. And so we follow said girl and what happens to her after she's chosen to be that sacrifice. And it's so good. It's so good. I know a lot of people seem to prefer Spinning Silver, which I did read too, and it was really good. That one had multiple perspectives, and there were some characters in there that I loved dearly, but Uprooted is so good. It cannot be beat in my heart. So yeah, this is another favorite standalone of all time. So good. So that was my books, questions on favorite books. I'm sorry that took so long, but this is a Bookish ASMR channel, so really, what did you expect? So another question is, do you watch any anime or manga? So again, this is something my roommates and my friends love anime and read manga. I've tried a couple. It's not my preferred storytelling way, but I enjoy watching, like, with them and stuff. So my sister loves Wolf's Rain, which is an older, I don't even know if that's an anime. I think it is. But yeah, she loves Wolf's Rain, so I watched that with her, and that really I loved that story. It was really good and made me cry at the end. And then I did read Heaven Official's Blessing, because that art was all over my timeline. I could not escape it. So I read the manga and then watched a bit of the show. I haven't caught up, and that was enjoyable too. I like that, but I would say I'm not like a huge anime manga fan. I know a lot of the titles. Like, you can throw Jujutsu Kaisen at me and I'm like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about, but like I have not watched it. Not saying that I wouldn't ever. Like, I'm up for watching, but like left on my own devices, I probably wouldn't watch or pick up an anime or manga. The next question I see is, what is your biggest pet peeve? Which I didn't know if this was talking about like ASMR related or just like in general, so I kind of broke it down to both. So my biggest pet peeve in like ASMR, and I guess this is not really a pet peeve as much as just like a preference. I don't enjoy mouth sounds. If someone starts making mouth sounds, I immediately have to click off, and it's nothing personal. It's just, it's not for me. It does not relax me. It icks me out. So on a similar note, eating, like any kind of eating ASMR, no thank you. I can do gum chewing. Gum chewing's okay. But like mukbangs and stuff like that are not for me. Just, that does not relax me at all. I'm also not the biggest fan of like quick repetition, like when you repeat words a lot in ASMR. That's not really for me either. And like loud breathy whispers. Like, if you notice, all of my videos so far have been soft-spoken. It's because I really like soft-spoken. I just like very like low-key quiet talking. I find that more relaxing than when someone starts whispering at me. But that being said, if you guys enjoy whispering, let me know and I could try a whispering video. Like, I'm not against filming it. I just prefer soft-spoken. So those are my like ASMR pet peeves / preferences. But my biggest pet peeve in terms of like real everyday life, people who are inconsiderate. I know that seems kind of straightforward, but if you're like inconsiderate towards other people, it's a big pet peeve. Mostly I see this in like the service industry, like fast food and restaurants, even, or grocery stores, like any retail. Like, if you're inconsiderate to the person working, like, I've worked retail, I know it can be hard, so like I will never try to pressure those people. Like, I will lay down, you can walk all over me, I'm so sorry, have a good day. So yeah, people who are inconsiderate to service workers, like, that is immediately a turn off. On a similar note, like a lack of empathy, just like in traffic or like any conversation, like including people is, you know, nice. So like just showing lack of empathy towards another person is an immediate red flag for me. And then people who are judgmental. I know I'm just really naming basic things here, but it was really all I could think of. I don't think I have any particular pet peeves aside from like standard stuff like this. If you're quick to judge someone, like, have an open mind, you know. Especially I sort of struggle with social anxiety, so I really value people who make people feel included and aren't quick to judge them on their behavior when you don't know them yet. So yeah. So that's it for pet peeves, really. That's all I really have. I'm sure I'm missing something, but it's not coming to my mind. What are your goals for your YouTube channel? Any big plans for 2024? As far as goals go, I thought it'd be interesting to note that I am, if you follow Myers-Briggs, I know it's not like, it's like not infallible psychology, but if you're at all familiar with it, like MBTI, I am an INFP, and the perceiver over judger is really known for not liking plans, and I find that very true for me. I am not really a goal setter or a plan maker unless like I have to, like for work, obviously I do that kind of thing, but like in my recreational time I don't really do that. So I don't really have any set goals for my channel. I just hope that I make like good content that someone enjoys. I hope that if I get any requests that I feel comfortable doing, I would be able to do those. That's a goal, I guess. But really, I'm kind of doing this more for me. Like, I've always been kind of nervous in front of a camera. Like, I don't really ever consider myself like a video maker or like a content creator or anything like that. So I'm kind of just proud of myself for even attempting to post these kinds of videos. So that's really it for me. I guess in terms of broader scopes, I'd love to grow the Bookish ASMR side of YouTube. I think it's such an underrated side. Like, it's so relaxing, at least for me. And I think a lot of people would enjoy it if they knew about it more. So if I can at all contribute to that, I would love to. So there's that. Getting closer to the end. I actually didn't expect this video to take so long. I'm so sorry. I'm just yapping nonstop over here, especially about the bookish portion about it. But the next question is, what is your biggest achievement so far in life? I got my master's in library science, which I mentioned before. So I'm pretty proud of that. I never really thought I would get my master's degree. It was never like a thing I've always wanted to do, but I really enjoyed getting it. I actually, I never want to go back to school now personally, but I found getting my master's degree a lot more enjoyable than getting my bachelor's. Obviously, because the classes you take are more geared towards the thing you're interested in, hopefully. So yeah, I really enjoyed that, and I'm glad that I did it. Another achievement, like I mentioned, I had a brain tumor back when I was 17, and it really took a number on me, both physically and mentally. And it's actually only the last couple years that like I feel happier again. I really struggled after that to like remember come back to myself, I guess. So yeah, therapy is always great, and so is medicine if you feel like you need it for your mental health. So yeah, I'm just kind of glad that I made it through that time in my life, because there were points when it was really rough. And I definitely don't think that, I always have this thing of like, there are so many people who have it worse than me. Like, bringing it up even feels kind of like, I don't know, like, why bring it up? Like, it's not that big a thing, but obviously everyone has their own struggles, and this was just one that was really big for me. So yeah, just glad and proud that I have rebuilt my life after that. On a lighter note, the next question is, do you play any musical instruments? I grew up playing piano, and then in school I played the violin. I've never been particularly musically gifted, but boy have I tried. My parents were the kind who like would kind of try to get me into everything to see what stuck. In terms of like sports, athletics, musical instruments. And I enjoyed piano, and I, for the most part, enjoyed violin, but none of them really stuck with me. I was in choir for a little bit, and that was fun. But no, currently I do not play any musical instruments. Sadly, I'd love to. I love music. Which leads directly into the next question, which is, what types of music do you like? I don't know why I just did that. So I'll lead out with my favorite K-pop group. I'm not the biggest K-pop enjoyer, but I do have a favorite group, and that's Tomorrow by Together, which is a group under Big Hit, and they make kind of dreamy pop music, and I've seen them 3 times in concert, 2 times in VIP, and I just love their concerts. I love the way they perform. Their music is very much geared towards me, TXT just, I feel like, feels like a niche that not a lot of other groups make music for, and they kind of do a little bit of everything, and I love their music. So yeah, TXT is my favorite K-pop group. I'm gonna see them again this year, so very excited. But aside from K-pop, some bands I thought I'd mention. I love The National. I saw them last year in concert. The National kind of got me through college, not gonna lie. Damien Rice, Churches, the band Churches, Ben Howard, Florence and the Machine. I grew up loving Florence and the Machine. I was a Lungs album lover. Hozier, I like a lot of Hozier's music. And then let's see, Novo Amor, I listen to a lot. And then Conan Gray, I've been listening to a lot of Conan Gray recently. He's just been listening to his backlist and stuff, and yeah, I like his music. As terms of like, I grew up in the 2000s, so I grew up listening to 3 Days Grace, Linkin Park, Evanescence, like, so I still love those. Those are the classics. And then I do like an occasional Taylor Swift song. I'm not like the biggest fan. I always try to listen to her new releases just because I always want to see if there's something that I'll like. So I would say my favorite albums from Taylor Swift are Lover. Her Lover album I really liked. And then Folklore and Evermore were very much geared towards me. Especially because Folklore and Evermore came out during the pandemic, when everyone was kind of trapped inside. And like the mood of those albums, just like along with the mood of like the global population, felt very similar, and so like those albums will always have a very special place in my heart. Okay, we're getting to the last 2 questions. If you've been hanging with me all this time, I'm impressed. Thank you. So the last 2 questions are, one is, what ASMR channels do you watch? Which I love this because I would love to plug some of these people. ASMR Remedy I watch. She's great. She has a great soft-spoken, but also a great whispering. She does Ramble. She does some Bookish, some movie content, like kind of everything. She's great. Love her. I also used to watch a lot of one called like Hush Hush ASMR. She was like kind of early on in the Bookish ASMR sphere. She read a lot of like paranormal romance and that kind of thing, which like was very familiar to me, so that was very relaxing. And then like nowadays I'll watch, what is her name, Hannaboo ASMR. I'll link these people down below so you can like, you know, see what their usernames are and find them. So like Hannaboo ASMR does stuff that I enjoy. Usually book content. She's a Bookish ASMR content creator, mostly. And then I've also recently found Ray SMR. She does book hauls too, and I love them. So yeah, that's, I would say, who I've been watching recently. Ever since Bookish ASMR sort of became a thing, that's what I've kind of just been gravitating towards. So yeah. And then the last question is, who are your favorite authors? So going back to earlier, Nora Sakavic is my #1 favorite author. I think her writing is phenomenal. Her characterization cannot be beat, and just like, I don't know, she just has a way with words. I don't know how to describe it. And then Maggie Stiefvater is my second favorite. No one, like the way Maggie Stiefvater writes people is so real. Like a lot of characters in books you read can sometimes feel like carbon copies a little bit, with like slight changes in personality or like description. But Maggie, when she writes a character, it's like a whole real person. It's like you or me. Like, they feel so specific and like unlike any other character, like they can't be replicated. And especially the way she writes dynamics between people feels so real. So yeah, Maggie Stiefvater is amazing. I've actually gotten to meet her a couple times, and I'm always just in awe whenever I like see her speak. I'm like, oh, you're amazing. But another favorite author is Catherine Arden, the Winter Night Trilogy, Cassandra Clare, Shadowhunters, Naomi Novik, who wrote Uprooted, and then I wanted to also mention Laura Weymouth. She wrote a book called The Light Between Worlds, And she's also written some other books that I have on my shelf but haven't gotten to yet. But The Light Between Worlds talked a lot about portal fantasy, and like it kind of reminds me of Seanan McGuire's books that deal with children who have gone through portal fantasies and like have lingering trauma. I haven't read those books, but they're on my TBR. But Laura Weymouth wrote one that was like a sort of a, not a Narnia retelling, but felt like Narnia a little bit, and it was so good. The Light Between Worlds. It's such a good standalone, so I love the way she writes, so I had to add her on there. Okay. Okay, and that's it. I finally got through all those questions. I've never filmed for so long, so thanks for hanging in there with me if you did. Hopefully you learned a little bit about me in this. I can always do a part 2 later if you want to leave questions. I'll like gather them over time and maybe do another one, but aside from that, I'll probably just be filming some more bookish content. So if you're staying around for that, I hope you enjoy. And thanks for watching if you made it this far. If not, I totally understand. I've been rambling. So thank you. I appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.